Each week when we gather, we place a light in our midst. It's a symbol of our intention to live in ways that seek light. In this grace of a new week and a new day that calls us to name all those things with which we are so grateful, for which we are so grateful, that we come to this life seeking to find faithful ways in responding to that gratitude, faithful ways to begin seeking meaning, to care for a hurting world, to care for each other. We light this candle to call ourselves into a fresh start, into new beginnings, even as it's just another day. It's a day full of possibility. And we call our hearts and our minds to the ways that we seek to live. Better ways, better words, deeper courage, greater compassion. And so we light this light in our midst to remind us that in a changing world and in changing lives, in a day that will be like no other, that we might see the world anew and see each other with that same fresh perspective. So in this gift of time today, as we move from getting here to being here, may we sing our way into this circle to fully bring ourselves into the presence of each other.
We all share in this community together. We are every age, every gender identity and expression, every sexual orientation, every background, every level of experience on the spiritual path. All valuable, essential, beautiful, and real. We drink from one water, breathe from one air. We live under one sky, sharing in the joys and challenges of life, building community, and learning together. We are all shareholders of this earth and our communities, living and loving, questioning and answering, believing and doubting, thinking and feeling. We are a people of memory and tradition. We are a maverick people embracing visions of hope, lives of love, prophetic justice, and vital spiritual growth. We are one in our laughter, our tears, and our love. We all share in this community together. Whether you've been here once or often, you are part of this circle. This is a safe place. You are welcome here.
As a member of the board of Southminster Steinauer United Church, we are privileged and honored to welcome new members to our community today. We invite these people to come to the center table. Ryan Abbott, Estelle Dubé-Perron, Amy and Harvey Fontaine, Chris and Virginia Newell, Donna and Bill Stevenson.
We can come on this side too. What a crew.
Spirituality, of course, is a journey. It's not a destination, and we're all pilgrims. We honor that there are many ways to participate in this spiritual community. We contribute with our presence, with our time, with our passions, with our finances, with our creativity. We celebrate that this is a place of belonging. Today we formally welcome those among us here who already belong to this community in so many different ways, but who now take their place in it in a particular way. And we delight in their decision to formalize their relationship with us in membership. And so now I'll ask each of these persons before us here. Each of you have come into your own way to a time in your spiritual journey in which you wish to live your spirituality in relationship with this community, the congregation of Southminster Steinauer United Church. So I ask you these three questions. Do you seek to live with an open heart, open to the spirit of life that's within you, among us and between us, open to an all-encompassing mystery, the wisdom and wounds of creation, and the needs of the world? Do you seek to celebrate diversity, inspire compassion, engage life with spiritual depth, and seek to make a difference in the world? And do you seek to join in the life and work of this spiritual community, sharing our joys and sorrows, expressing our care for one another, and discerning the shared values and passions of this spiritual community?
Members and friends of Southminster Steinauer United Church, do you commit yourselves to walk with these friends who join us now, as we support each other with our prayers and our presence?
Source of support, acceptance, and encouragement to you. We offer to share our stories, wisdom, and experience as you share with us. We will walk together as we seek to deepen the awareness of our spirituality and our social responsibility. We welcome you. Yay! Ryan, Estelle, Amy, and Harvey, Chris and Virginia, Donna, and Bill, we welcome each of you into the privileges and responsibilities of membership in this congregation. We give thanks for each of you. We are enriched by your presence, and may we all be enriched by the journey we take together, and may our spirituality grow and deepen as we share this path. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, this story is called A Penguin Story, and it's about a penguin named Edna. Has anybody ever seen a penguin at the zoo? You see a penguin at the zoo? You've seen a penguin at the zoo? What color are they? Black and white. All right, let's listen to this story and remember about Edna being black and white. White, thinks Edna, like yesterday. Black, like tomorrow. Blue, 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 forever. Yeah. There is white ice for sliding, says Edna. There is black night for seeing stars. There is blue sea for hunting fish. But there must be something else. Edna calls a little penguin. Come play with us. I can't, she says. I'm busy. Doing what? Ask the twins. Looking for something that's not white, not black, not blue. When you get tired of looking, come play, says the little penguin. Edna calls a large penguin. Come fish with me. I can't, she says. I'm busy. Doing what? Looking for something. You mean something to eat, he asks, like lunch? No, says Edna, something else. When you get tired of looking, come fish, he says. I'll never get tired of looking, thinks Edna. Look up here. Something different. Yeah. The next day, she sets off to find the something else. The large penguin packs her a lunch. There's her lunch. She looks and looks. The penguin ate he ate the fish for lunch. And looks. Oof, she fell into a snowbank. Wow! I knew it. The world isn't only white, black, and blue. Edna runs home as fast as she can. I found the something else I was looking for. Come and see. Everyone rushes off without eating lunch or dinner. Look, says Edna. Look what they found. Wow, say the penguins. This really is something else. What do you think they found? Looks like they found some scientists. Look at that. With a tent and a plane and some boxes. And a man there and another man there. Or maybe a lady. We can't tell because they're wearing big coats. But they're all scientists. And when the scientists pack up their camp, Edna pitches in. See, she's helping them load boxes onto the plane. It's the least she can do. The large penguin looks for lunch. Think he found anything in there? A sandwich? You think he found a sandwich? The plane is ready to go. Thanks for the something else, thinks Edna. For the penguins, the way home seems short. There they are on their way home. What do they have with them? What do they have? A glove. He took their glove. I think he probably gave it to them. I think the man gave it to the penguins. Wow, now we've got something that's not white, says Edna. And not black, says the twins. And not blue, says the little penguin. Look at that, he's floating in the water. And definitely not lunch, says the large penguin. And that's the end of the story. The next day, Edna wonders, what else could there be?
I would like to read from the book of James in chapter 4. And now I have a word for you who brashly announce, today at the latest tomorrow, we're off to such and such a place to do such and such a thing. We'll do some work there, and we'll come back. You don't know the first thing about tomorrow. You're nothing but a wisp of fog catching a brief bit of sun before disappearing. Instead, make it a habit to say this: if we still possess the gift of life, we're going to do such and such a thing. Yet you're self-important enough to brag about what tomorrow will bring. Don't do it anymore. This is a story passed down from the first century Jesus tradition. May we find wisdom for our living.
This is an excerpt from Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change by Pema Chodron, and she's a Buddhist nun who lives in Halifax. What does it feel like to be human in this ambiguous, groundless state? As human beings, we share a tendency to scramble for certainty whenever we realize that everything around us is in flux, trying to find solid ground, something predictable and safe to stand on. But in truth, the very nature of our existence is forever in flux. We grab at pleasure and try to avoid pain, but despite our efforts, we're constantly alternating between the two. Under the illusion that experiencing constant security and well-being is the ideal state, we do all sorts of things to try to achieve it. Eat, drink, drugs, work, shop, spend hours online, watch TV. But somehow we never quite achieve the state of unwavering satisfaction we're seeking. At times we feel good. Physically nothing hurts and mentally is all well. Then it changes and we're hit with physical pain or mental anguish. I imagine we could even chart how pleasure and pain alternate in our lives, hour by hour, day after day, year in and year out. But it's not this wavering between contentment and anguish that is the cause of our suffering. Rather, it's our resistance to the fundamental uncertainty of being human. Our discomfort arises from all of our efforts to put ground under our feet, to realize our dream of okayness. When we resist change, it's called suffering. When we can completely let go and not struggle against it, when we can embrace the groundlessness of our situation and relax into its dynamic quality, that's awakening to our true nature. Another word for this is freedom. Freedom from struggling against the fundamental ambiguity of being human. This is the freedom I desire. This is wisdom from a Buddhist nun.
Today's sidetrack from the Spirit is certainty. Most of us do enjoy a little certainty in life. Who wouldn't? One of the challenging things about the spiritual life is that it keeps hitting us with this idea that certainty is not a very compatible notion with the spiritual journey. I've been known in my family to be fairly regularly accused of being certain even in my total wrongness. And I own that. I know it's true. I suspect that every tattoo parlor, every car dealership, and every wedding chapel has people come through the door all the time that are very certain. The problem is we never know if what we're certain about is right or not. And therein lies the problem with certainty. I used to be certain about a great many things, I suppose, and as we get older, like so many others, we recognize that we're certain about a very scant few things. Maybe nothing. On this exciting but difficult journey of life, I think the question then becomes, are we going to be okay to live like this? Can we be friends with uncertainty? The wisdom of the early Christian community was that we must. When we hear the writer in the book of James say, "What do you know about tomorrow? How can you be so sure?" We hear about the very fact of our existence is uncertain. And it doesn't take us very long of living with the ups and downs and the surprises and the shocks and the trauma of life to recognize that nothing is for certain. Not a friend that we saw just last week, not our homes, not the safety of our cities. And yet, when we come upon that kind of existence, we're left very shaky. Because no one likes being uncertain to that degree. Wisdom traditions have always known that uncertainty is life. And perhaps it's their complete modus operandi. It's every spiritual tradition's purpose to give some measure of strength and comfort in what is certainly an uncertain world. Those who leave room for spiritual uncertainty, though, discover what mystics have always known: that ambiguity is not something to be feared. Uncertainty is nothing to be afraid of, but recognized as an integral part of any spirituality that continues to develop and evolve. Many of us have experience with traditions that are not free to develop and evolve. And certainty may work for a time in those traditions, but there comes a time for all of us when that certainty breaks down. And to be in a developing and evolving spirituality, existence, is more about embracing and learning to cope. Science has taken a little time to address the questions that the spiritual and philosophical realm have long been thinking about, but albeit from a different perspective. And I'm fascinated. In 1687, Isaac Newton published his Principia, which talked about his classical picture of the universe. This is, the laws of gravitation, the laws of motion. We've all learned this, even if it's been a long time since we learned it. Newton's second law links the force of acceleration of an object like a billiard ball rolling across a felt table. It says that if you calculate its speed and direction and the friction of the table and all the forces acting upon it, you can very accurately calculate where it'll end up. Its future location and speed are easily determined. They're certain. It was long believed, thanks to Newton, that the mass, location, and speed of the planets, as they travel in their orbits around the sun, determine where they'll be in 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 years from today, provided only that all the forces acting on them are properly accounted for. The universe runs its course like clockwork. But it's interesting that in the last 30 or 40 years, what we now know, thanks to a number of different people in various different fields, one of those is a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz, who a lot of years ago discovered that tiny differences in the starting values have a massive impact on the solution. And I think those of us who know that recognize that. If I'm sawing a piece of wood, and my calculation at the very start is a millimeter out, how come by the time I get my saw to the other piece of that end of that wood, that it's 1.5 inches out? Tiny differences at the beginning can make significant differences later on. And so we discover things as small as the initial rotation of the cloud that formed when our universe was formed. Tiny differences in the cloud impact the rotation and the orbits of our planets. So we discovered in the 1990s, for instance, that Pluto, that sad once upon a time planet, has a chaotic orbit. Nobody knew that. So if you ask a person who knows about such things now, where will Pluto be in 1,000 or 10,000 years? They have to say, we have no idea. The universe has this irreducible random character to it. If it runs like clockwork, it's not Swiss made, that's for sure. It's made in some strange Willy Wonka, Dr. Seussian world where we can know, if not certain, it's based on probabilities, we could guess. We can use all our knowledge and we can pile it together. We can take a pretty good guess, but can we really be certain? Strangely enough, I think we can find this, rather than a discombobulating idea, we can find it very comforting. Embracing that science helps our spirits, I really believe. What it does is it places us all, every inhabitant on the planet, every creature of this universe, it places us all on the same uneven, shaky ground. None of us knows for certain. There's no right and certain answer to any question we can really throw at our world, at our life. And I think what that does is it makes it easier to discern where we together or as individuals need to go and what we need to do. It makes it easy for one to spot the charlatans that say, I've got the answer for you. It helps us to recognize that any religion, any philosophy, any idea that promises certainty, it's a sure thing. This is it. Anything that promises the one and only answer, the true path, the narrow way, call it what you want, that anything that promises that is selling something and they want your bucks. As Pema Chodron has written, to commit to the reality of this kind of chaotic life is to embrace the world just as it is. It requires an unshakable bond with life. Accepting that we're bound to reality, bound to everything that is, just as it is, with nowhere to go other than right where we are. Reality means we work with whatever we have and whoever we are right now. Because who knows about tomorrow, right? You and I have less control than we'd like on most days. We can't control the weather or our health beyond a certain extent. We can't control what decisions those around us are going to make. And maybe to some, excuse me for going down this rabbit hole, but in some quantum meta-socialized way, maybe we can't even control what decisions we make. But perhaps the acknowledgement of that reality is a tiny, tiny evolutionary step. That we walk a path that strives to give up our addiction to that kind of control and that kind of knowing. That we learn just bit by bit not to let that freak us out, that we don't know about tomorrow, and that nothing is for sure. And we walk one foot in front of the other, just step by step, breathing into the reality of this chaotic world. And the wisdom teachers who tell us that there's one way to respond to it, and that is respond with who you are and where you are, and just respond now. Deal with now. When we fool ourselves into thinking we're in control, we tend to take things much more personally. We imagine that everything is about us, or else we take too much responsibility, imagining that everything depends on us, or else we start to feel entitled, as though opportunities should be handed to us on a platter. And when things don't go our way, it shakes the foundation of our worldview. But instead, to embrace this reality and the uncertainty of life and all its questions becomes a spiritual practice that we work at. And that as we do, it reveals other strengths in us. Couldn't it invite us to experience the world a bit differently, with an openness to turn each page and find whatever strength and energy we need to face when we find what's there? Or that we go out, and when we see something that's not black or white or blue, and something new, we're amazed by it, want to know more about it, and just wait before we're scared by it, or that it turns us away from it so that we hide from whatever the world has for us tomorrow. Within the small circle of existence where we find ourselves on this small blue dot in the midst of a vast and fascinating universe, I would think that we would prefer to glory in the beauty of this life just as it is, as we learn more and more about it. John Spong writer, author, speaker, says it this way: the future of spirituality lies in embracing uncertainty as a virtue. The spiritual life is exciting and a constant wrestling, a constant walking into mystery, never being sure that you're right and therefore never being arrogant. Invite people to come into a journey where questions are honored instead of petty answers given, and that is where you'll find the only tenable future of Christianity. As we celebrate the new members among us, and we welcome new people to our community all the time, as we rejoice at the journey that we want to take together with one another on this spiritual adventure, we can say honestly to each other that we're small in this universe, but we're not insignificant. That we have a place in this universe and in this world, but we don't own the place. And that we may not be the center of all that is, but all that is does dwell at the center of us. And what an adventure that is, regardless of what tomorrow brings. As we continue to walk step by step, embracing the uncertainty of today and tomorrow and the day after that, may we work to make it so that we live and love right where we are. Let's pause to speak into this moment in time. with words, but also with hearts and with wherever our minds and hearts may wander. That is the real purpose of our stating our intentions together. For each of us, they're different, and yet we share something at its core. So let us be quiet. Let's pause and enter into a time of meditation and prayer. As we're still for a few moments, may we create a space for more gratitude, greater compassion, sensitive understanding, and honesty. We have gratitude to be alive and to have choices. We have compassion to give and receive all that can humanize and connect. We sit here in a room of varied, unique people, and yet all connected. Connected in purpose and intention, but also connected by our very humanity. We pause to recognize it and be in awe of it. As we celebrate all that has been in making us who we are today, our traditions, our families, our history, our earth's wisdom, we celebrate beginnings and the longer haul of changing realities and constantly expanding ourselves to embrace what each new day brings. Let's humbly and excitedly join in the evolution of our lives, to be the change we wish to see, to celebrate change itself as the only constant, to continue in discerning our attachments and our freedoms, what we hold on to with white and tight knuckles, as well as what we let go with relief and simplicity. We accept and leave alone the missteps that we've taken and that we'll make again. Let's give ourselves to each other, first in forgiving ourselves. And then let's move together to pick up our feet to do what's needed for each other and for the world as best we can. We know that we have limited perspectives. We have petty grievances. We have selfish, survivalist, and instinctual tendencies that get in the way. But may they make way, and may we do what we can to engender truer, deeper, and more collaborative living. So we learn and grow, struggle to achieve greater realities of care and community, of decision-making and justice-seeking. May meals get delivered, may the homeless get housed, may the discouraged find kindness, may patience be extended, may the sick and imprisoned be encouraged through all that we do this day and this week, if by word, if by thought, if by song, if by action. And so we look more clearly in the mirror now, making choices and changing ways. Our minds open to ever-expanding freedoms. In calm constancy, even amidst the changes and challenges before us. It's in this spirit that we pray and hope that our commitments might lead to actions. May it be so. Amen.
When we came together a little over an hour ago to join in our spiritual gathering, we lit this candle to symbolize our life together as a community. And now when we come to the close of our time, it's time to transform this energy. We move from this place and journey forward. We may not journey with total certainty, but we do journey with hope. We go to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with all of creation. And as we journey, we take with us our highest values.